All right, well, we are recording and we are on our session 2 of our Reboot Tuesday group. I sent out an email to you guys, so if you have with you your beads that were in your packet, you should have had what I call cord, and then I guess they're clasps. We're going to work on these today a little bit after we talk about some things to get our group started. So again, if you're just jumping on, my name is Megan Niesler. I am the Associate Director at Lutheran Counseling Services, and this is our second session for Reboot Tuesday. And what we're really talking about today is stress and anxiety in the holiday season and how that impacts your body physically. So just a couple rules that we went over last time. I'm going to record mainly when I'm talking, and I will pause our recording when I open it up for group discussion, just to keep that piece confidential. And I will let you know before and after when I'm recording and when I'm not. And that recording is just so people that can't gather with us at this time will be able to view it later. And I think, as you were saying, Dave, you were able to do that. So that's awesome. And then just want to respect what people share in here, that if we know each other, we're not going to go share it to people that aren't part of our group. And I ask that you don't share our video either, since this is a closed group. So in our first session, we talked about really naming what makes you anxious and nervous or stressed out over the holiday season. And when we're able to put it in words, we recognize that we can better maintain control over those words or over the stress and anxiety that we find. So hopefully, and I wanted to just pause for a second and see if you guys were able over this last week to do the thing that we practiced, to journal, to be able to color your mandala. So I'd love to hear from you about that. So I'm going to pause our recording real quick so we could just share real quick. All right, so today what I really wanted us to focus on was stress and anxiety. So for me, when I talk about anything, I think it's important to define it. The definition of stress or the definition of anxiety, it's important that we have the same thing that we're operating from. So a common definition of stress that we use is the perception of danger that creates tension. So I'll say it again, perception of danger that creates tension. Obviously, the biggest word in there is perception. And I think I shared with you last time, my stress and anxiety that comes with the holiday season is I want everything to be perfect. And I have this perception in my mind that people are going to attack that and sabotage it, and it won't be perfect like I very, very much want it to be. So that idea that the perception of what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking about causes that tension in my body. Or maybe for you, it's, I perceive when you get all of my family members together that things are not going to go well. And sometimes that's definitely true. And sometimes it's just my perception. Or I had a client recently who had this perception that nobody liked the food that she made. And maybe there was something wrong with it or bad. And so it really created stress within her. So that idea of your perception of something creates the stress. And then the definition that we use for anxiety is a human emotion. Okay, so a human emotion to a current or future perceived threat. So again, with that word perceived. So a human emotion to a current or future perceived threat. Again, we're talking about how I view something, how I perceive what's going to happen. I've done a lot of presentations on anxiety and fear, especially for middle schoolers. And so I'm going to try something here to share a video with you. Now, it may seem a little bit juvenile for adults, but whatever. You guys can figure it out. So the point of my video is to help you understand the difference between anxiety and fear, and then what happens in your body. So let's see if I can if I can get this to work, because I want to share my screen with you and show you this video. And again, I'm going to tell you maybe a little bit childish on one part, but I think you will understand what I'm trying to show you here. All right, Dave, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen, Dave? All right. All right, so hopefully that kind of makes a little bit of sense to you, and being able to see it is that when we're talking about the difference between stress and anxiety, it's really the cause or the factor that puts the anxiety into our situation. So in our video, obviously a house is on fire. We have physical reactions, our hormones and everything kick in, and we know what to do. When anxiety happens, oftentimes people around us cannot see what is going on internally for us. And so we still have that same experience of the hormones and the adrenaline and everything flooding our body, but nothing exterior is usually, nobody's usually aware that that's going on. And it's something inside of us that has triggered that. So that's why I like to share that video, is really for you guys to see the difference, and almost the reason God gave us that adrenaline and peace in our body is we have anxiety for a reason. It's a response system within us that is built in to respond to high intensity situations. But sometimes when we're teaching kids about anxiety, what I teach is that your alarm system that God gave you in your body is malfunctioning. It's going off when it doesn't need to. You're perceiving something that is a threat that at sometimes is not really a threat. And so when we experience anxiety in that way, we know we have those physical reactions in our bodies. If you've ever had an anxiety attack, or what people call a panic attack, you know, your heart races, you can be just flooded with sweat, you can have stomach aches. All of those physical symptoms happen. And so over a period of time, we also know that stress and things build up, and anxiety builds up and can cause our immune system not to function as well. We're more susceptible to things like the flu and sickness and colds as we have this stress going on upon our bodies. So I wanted really for you guys to understand the physical things that happen in our bodies with anxiety, because I think it's really important to know physically what's happening to then help our bodies calm down at times with anxiety. So ways that we teach to cope and calm our bodies with anxiety is some of the things we talked about last week, that through the holidays, if you have routines that you normally do anyways, we should keep those going through stressful times. So when we know the holidays are going to be stressful for us, we need to keep our exercise routine, our devotional routine, whatever those things that you do regularly for self-care, we shouldn't abandon them. Now, that might mean that you're going to have a house full of people and you still need to have your quiet time. And for some of us, that might feel disrespectful. But in all honesty, it is the healthiest choice to make. So if you're, I get up in the morning, I swore I would never do this in my whole life because I made fun of my dad for doing it. But I am getting up at 5 a.m. every morning, 5 days a week, and going to my workout. And when my house is flooded with people and I'm hosting guests and stuff, it's still going to be important for me to keep that routine. A daily devotion routine that you do, or journaling, or something that you do. Even if that pulls you away from family members for 5 or 10 minutes, I promise you'll be more effective when you re-engage with them if you disconnect for a couple of minutes. So things that we know benefit our body in times of stress and anxiety, and I don't like to hear it either, but we know that exercise helps. And I don't mean like a high intensity hour workout where you're burning 1,000 calories. I mean going on a walk, getting outside and swimming in the pool if you can in Florida, like we can. Anything that gets your heart rate raised for 20 minutes is proven to release endorphins and help to fight those depressed and anxious moods that come over us. So even if it is just taking your dog for a walk or shooting a basket outside at recess with your class, whatever it is to raise your heart rate, that's going to be very beneficial. And the other piece that we talked about with anxiety is we usually have rapid breathing or rapid heart rate. So we know times of relaxation breathing is going to help your body in moments of anxiety, taking a deep breath and letting it rest. My husband and I were at the UCF football game this weekend. Woohoo, go Knights. And I can't tell you how many times my Apple Watch went off that I needed to breathe because I thought they were going to lose and I was having an anxiety attack. And my Apple Watch prompts me to breathe. So if you have a tool like that, or just a meditation piece that you do, that is so important. Even if you just stop for a minute and do a deep breathing exercise. And I want to show you one that a good friend of mine, Kurt Bickle, taught me at Emergent Leaders that I think is really easy and important and effective. And sometimes after a client walks out of my office and that was an intense session, I just pause for a second and I practice this breathing exercise. So the idea of this breathing exercise is that you do a count of 4 breathing in, you hold for a count of 7, and then you breathe out for a count of 8. And you're supposed to repeat that 4 times. So I'll tell you again, we're going to breathe in for a count of 4. So it'd go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you were to repeat that 4 times, it would take maybe a minute. And it is a whole body relaxation breathing technique. So that is one piece that over the next week, if you are able to pause for a second, maybe it's checking out of Kohl's, which for me is like a crazy line, and sometimes I need to do some deep breathing, or no matter where you are, pausing to take a deep breath. So the last thing I want to teach you today, it's our coping skills tool, and I'm going to show you the finished product so that you know what we're going for. And then I'm going to show you how to make it and show you how to use it for a calming exercise. So if you were to look online, most of the time these are called tracking beads. If you're on Pinterest, I'm on Pinterest as Megan Meisler, and I have a play therapy board, and this is on there, and I'll probably shoot it out to you guys in an email. So this is the finished product of what you're going to make. You can make it into a bracelet if you want. A lot of times, like kids that we do it with, we just put it on a keychain. They attach it to their backpack, or maybe if they're older, their keys. But the point is that we're gonna make this in such a way that your beads move. And that's the important piece. So these beads literally slide down on my bracelet or my keychain, because the activity that we want to do is related to moving the beads, and you're going to use it as a prompt. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like as your finished product. No, the light isn't the best in here. So this is what it's going to look like. All right, if you're ready, we're going to give this a try virtually. Never done it before virtually, but we'll see. So you should have in your bag, you should have gotten a piece of cord. And my office administrator cut them to be about 3 feet, okay? So what I want you to do is take your clasp. The first piece of your clasp would be the circle. And if I would have gotten it out of the bag earlier, you guys wouldn't have to wait for me to open this thing. So you're gonna take your circle, or I think they were all circles that she sent. I have a bunch of different shapes. You're gonna take your circle, and it has a loop at the top, and you're just gonna feed one string through it. One string through it, and you're gonna get it halfway down to where literally you would fold this in half. Okay? And then right here, halfway through my string, I'm just gonna tie a knot to secure that in place. So just like a loop, I just loop it around my finger and tie a knot. Okay, so then that secures my clasp in place and it won't move around on me. Hope you guys can see that. All right, then you should have received 10 beads, okay? And here's the important piece about how we put our beads on. I'm gonna take one bead, and I should have 2 ends, and I'm going to put them through my bead in the opposite direction. So one will go in one side and one will go in the other, and then I'm going to pull it all the way down. Does that make sense? So I take a bead, one string goes into one side of my bead, and one string goes into the other side of my bead. See how I did that? And then I take it all the way down. All right, I'm gonna pause our recording as we continue to make the bracelet to see if you guys have any questions as we go. All right, so once you got the 10 on, again, the gap that you wanna leave is gonna be up to you. If you're wanting to make it a bracelet, I might measure it out a little bit better around your wrist. If you're wanting to put it on a keychain, just make sure you have maybe like 2 or 3 beads in length left that you could move it around. So with that second piece of your clasp, you're going to first knot how far you want down that clasp to be. So make a knot first. Okay, so I'm gonna go about this far. I'm just gonna take it and knot it like a little loop. Does that make sense? So I made a knot. Then I'm gonna take my clasp, this little clasp end that's gonna go in there, and I'm just going to put it on one string, because I don't like dealing with making sure I make my knot thick enough to not slip it through. So I'm gonna put it on one string. I'm gonna take it all the way down to that knot I just made. So it'll look like this. And then I'm just going to make a knot after that clasp to keep it secure and locked in there. Now, again, depending on what you might use it for, is how long you want to make it. And then clearly you have a ton of extra, or you should. So you can just cut this off at whatever desired length you would like to cut it off at. All right. So hopefully you have something that looks pretty close to this, or you're getting there. Again, if you want to put it on your keychain, or if it's something that you want to put around your wrist, it's just a simple clasp where the piece goes through the circle and it clasps on pretty easily. So why in the world are we making these things? Well, when we talk about anxiety and stress, remember that word, perception, right? Stress is the perception of danger that creates tension. Anxiety is a human emotion to a current or future perceived threat. So oftentimes what we need to do is we need to take our mind to a different place. A lot of times when we describe it to kids, your thought pattern is on a train that is running out of control. And what we need to do is stop that train, get off of it, and get on a different train. And so one tool we use to do that, I'm going to show you a variety of ways you can do that, is to physically prompt yourself in some self-talk or just in a different storyline to take your brain off of that thought train that's running out of control and causing you anxiety. So we can use this in a lot of different ways. One of my favorite ways to use this is when I can't get my brain off of that thought, is to use this to name 10 people I care about and love. Or 10, for me, if you don't know me well, I'm a huge sports fan. So I will often name, this is so embarrassing to admit, but like 10 Lightning players, because the Lightning are my favorite hockey team. 10 Lightning players that I'm cheering for this week, or 10 things I'm thankful for. So not only am I trying to get my brain off of what I'm thinking, but now physically I've taken my senses somewhere else too. So the goal of this is to prompt you to move your thoughts intentionally to something else and to have a sensory piece that helps connect you to that. Does that make sense? A lot of other times that we'll use this for kids is it can be another physical prompt for the deep breathing that we were talking about. Like I'm going to go through that routine of breathing in 4, breathing out, or holding it for 7, breathing out for 8. Sometimes with kids, those numbers are a little complicated. So we'll breathe in for 5 and move it as we're breathing. And then we'll breathe out for 5 and move it as we're breathing. Because I hope what you're seeing is the connection to your brain and the physical things that are going on in your body. And that's the goal of using this type of a tool, is to take your thoughts to a different place, maybe to control your breathing. A lot of these type of things have been used in prayer. So name 10 traits that you love about God, or 10 things that you are thankful for today, or 10 praises, positive things that have happened. So really it's that physical prompt to help your brain get on a different train and redirect those thoughts. All right, I'm going to pause so we can just discuss that for a second. All right, so my goal for you this week then would be to put this somewhere. Like for me, honestly, I probably won't wear it, but I carry around a bunch of keys when I work, and sometimes at my schools I have lanyards. So I might attach this to that when I know I am feeling really stressed and may need something just to refocus me. So I want you to find a place where you could keep this, and maybe just make a mental note to give this a try. Maybe it's just going to be with your devotion and naming 10 things that you're thankful for, or really in a stressful time, trying to redirect your thoughts. So that's my goal for you this week, is to find a way to use this if you can. If the other tool that that I shared with you was working from last week, I'd encourage you to continue that practice as well. Next week, we're going to meet again, and our goal for next Tuesday at noon, we'll be talking about control. So where do you find power when you feel like things are out of your control, and how do you know what is in your control and not? So we will be using the next tool that I sent you was the clay and the rocks that made it to some people, but not to everybody. So if you have a rock, grab it, and the paint chips that were in your packet. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know that next week I will be hosting our virtual group from Mexico City Beach or close by. I'm traveling up there to do some disaster response. So if the internet gets a little bit hairy or like the background doesn't look the same, I'm going to try to come in remotely from there, and I'm very hopeful that it will work. We have a place there where we're staying that I think I can connect to. But just wanted to let you know if we had a little bit trouble with the internet, that it probably will more likely be on my end than on your end. But I will get the video up and posted and sent to you guys like we have been doing. So that's all for me today. I will send you an email later on with our video link if you want to go back and review about how to use this new tool that I taught you about today. I look forward to seeing you guys next week, and I will hang on for a little bit after this if you guys have any questions or things that you want to chat about. But thanks for joining me again, and I will see you next week.